My revenge plot failed, but it led me to her, and in her blindness, I found a love that was crystal clear. I never thought my life would take such a dramatic turn. It all started on a rainy afternoon in the bustling city of Brighton. I was a 28-year-old freelance graphic designer, struggling to make ends meet. My days were spent hunched over my laptop in a cramped apartment, designing logos and websites for clients who rarely appreciated my work. Life felt monotonous, like a loop of endless deadlines and unfulfilled dreams. But everything changed the day I met her. Her name was Clara. She was 26, a pianist from a wealthy family, and, unlike me, she lived in a world of luxury. Our paths crossed at a cafe where I was delivering a design proposal to a client. Clara was sitting at a corner table, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the rim of her coffee cup. She wore oversized sunglasses, which I later learned were to shield her eyes from the world she could no longer see. Clara was blind. I didn't know it then, but that cafe encounter would set off a chain of events that would redefine my life. It all began with a misunderstanding. I noticed Clara glancing in my direction, or so I thought. Her head tilted slightly and her lips curved into a faint smile. My heart raced. I convinced myself she was interested in me. Fueled by a mix of hope and recklessness, I approached her table. "Hey," I said, trying to sound confident. "I couldn't help but notice you. You're stunning." Her smile faded, replaced by a look of confusion. "Excuse me," she replied, her voice cold and distant. I stumbled over my words, trying to salvage the situation. "I mean, I'd love to get to know you. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime?" Before she could respond, a security guard appeared out of nowhere. "Sir, you need to leave," he said firmly. I was escorted out of the cafe, humiliated and confused. Later I learned that Clara hadn't been smiling at me at all. She hadn't even seen me. Her blindness made her expressions seem misleading, and my overconfidence had led to an embarrassing mistake. The incident didn't end there. Clara's family was influential, and word of my inappropriate behavior reached my client. I lost the contract, and with it, my primary source of income. Anger and frustration consumed me. I blamed Clara for my misfortune, convinced that her wealth and privilege had cost me my livelihood. For weeks, I plotted my revenge. I wanted to make her regret what she'd done to me. But when the opportunity finally came, things didn't go as planned. One evening, I disguised myself as a plumber and showed up at Clara's penthouse. Her neighbors had reported a pipe issue, and I used it as an excuse to gain entry. When she opened the door, I introduced myself as Arthur, the plumber. She hesitated but eventually let me in. The moment I stepped inside, I realized how out of place I was. Her home was a masterpiece of modern design, sleek furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a grand piano that dominated the living room. I felt a pang of guilt, but pushed it aside. This was about justice, I told myself. I pretended to inspect the pipes, creating a small flood in the bathroom to sell the act. Clara, unaware of my sabotage, thanked me for my help. Her gratitude only deepened my guilt. I had expected her to be cold and arrogant, but she was kind and trusting. My revenge felt hollow. As I was about to leave, Clara slipped on the wet floor and injured her arm. Panic set in as I realized the extent of my actions. I couldn't leave her alone in that state. Against my better judgment, I stayed to help her. Over the next few days, I became her caretaker. I cooked for her, helped her with daily tasks, and even accompanied her to doctor's appointments. It was during this time that I began to see Clara for who she truly was, a woman who had endured immense pain but still found joy in the little things. One evening, as we sat by the piano, she opened up about her past. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was a teenager, leaving her blind and alone. The ring she always wore was the only reminder of them. "Sometimes," she said, her voice trembling, "I'm glad I can't see. I don't have to see the world without them." Her vulnerability shattered the walls I had built around my heart. I realized that my anger had blinded me to her humanity. Clara wasn't the villain in my story. She was just another person trying to navigate a world that had been cruel to her. As Clara's arm healed, so did our relationship. What began as a twisted act of revenge transformed into something beautiful. We spent hours talking, laughing, and exploring the city together. I introduced her to the vibrant street markets and live music scenes she had never experienced. In return, she showed me the beauty of a world beyond sight. A world where emotions and connections mattered more than appearances. One night, as we sat on the balcony overlooking the city, Clara turned to me and said, "You've given me a new world, Mike. I don't want to lose that." Her words echoed in my mind. I had come into her life as an imposter, but somewhere along the way, I had found my true self. I realized that love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It was about being there for someone even when the world felt dark. When Clara's arm fully healed, I knew it was time to leave. I had overstayed my welcome, and the guilt of my initial deception weighed heavily on me. But as I packed my bags, Clara stopped me. "Stay," she said simply. "I don't need a caretaker anymore, but I do need you." Her words were a balm to my soul. I stayed, not out of obligation, but because I had found something I never knew I was searching for, a connection that transcended sight, status, and past mistakes. Looking back, I realize how far we've come. Clara and I are no longer defined by our differences. She is no longer the wealthy, blind pianist, and I am no longer the struggling designer seeking revenge. We are simply two people who found love in the most unexpected place. Love, I've learned, doesn't care about what you see or what you have. It exists in the quiet moments, the shared laughter, and the promises we keep. Even in complete darkness, love finds a way to shine. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. After all, life is full of unexpected twists, and you never know what story might inspire you next. Stay tuned for more tales of love, redemption, and the beauty of human connection. Until then, keep your heart open and your eyes, whether they see or not, focused on what truly matters.